So last week I posted my first video on YouTube in almost 4 months. And you guys have noticed over the past couple of years actually that I have not been very active on YouTube like I was for so many years. I started way back in 2009 at the age of 11. I remember YouTube was like my dream. I wanted to be like Shane Dawson and Fred, Niga Higa, all those guys that were around back then. I wanted to be just like them, and I wanted to be like a famous YouTuber. That was my dream when I was a kid. And I had one hell of a run on YouTube. Unfortunately, I could not keep up with the videos like I used to back in the day when I had more free time and when my life wasn't a complete mess and a complete train wreck. I worked some very brutal hours working the night shift, and it's really hard to find the energy and the time and the willpower to sit and record a video and take the time to edit it and do all this stuff. And even just getting the gameplay, just playing a video game, turning on the Xbox or booting up the game on Steam, that alone is something that takes a lot of willpower from me, because I'm just not into video games like I used to when I was a kid, or when I was younger and had more free time and more time to do stuff like that. With video games, man, as an adult, it just fucking sucks. There's really no better way to say it. When you're an adult, video games just feels like a chore sometimes, like depending on the game. But I remember when I was like in my teenage years, I used to love those huge open world games like Fallout and Grand Theft Auto, and these games that literally had hundreds upon hundreds of hours of playtime just off that one game. And now I see myself, like, I just like see these games and I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm ever gonna finish any of those games. Like, you have Starfield coming out soon, and you have a whole bunch of these games, and it's just like, no, there is no chance that I am ever going to complete these games. And I remember back then when The Witcher 3 came out and Fallout 4 came out and all these open world Assassin's Creed games, people were complaining there are too many open world games, and I never understood it. It's like, you're complaining about a game that has more content and has more stuff to do, but now, as I'm older, I kind of understand where these people are coming from, because it's just so much better. These linear games, which I used to not really care for when I was a kid, now I love them because I can just pick it up, play it, and then when I finish it, let's say it's like a 10-hour story or maybe a little bit more, then I can just go on and play another one. But when you actually have responsibilities, when you have a job, when you have a family, when you have all this stuff, I mean, I don't even have like kids or anything like that. Imagine if or when I get to that stage in my life, I'm really gonna struggle to find time to play games. And like, I'm single and I'm already struggling. So yeah, it's funny how just a few years your whole perspective changes, and it definitely, as you get older, your tastes in gaming, your preferences will definitely evolve. So if you're a younger person watching this and you're like, oh, I can't see myself changing just because I'm getting older, like, you just don't know, because you don't have any experience and you don't understand what it's like to be an adult with responsibility. I'm not even trying to say that as an insult, but it's how I was a few years ago. So just wait and you'll see if you're one of my younger viewers. But yeah, it's like the thing, like, it feels like a chore when I'm trying to play a game. Like, I used to take the game in and explore it and try to get everything I could out of that one game. Like, that's how I always played. To now, like, if there's side quests, I skip them. I try to rush through the main story as fast as I possibly can. And it's just, it kind of, the fun is kind of gone. Like, I don't have as much fun playing video games as I used to. I just feel like something's missing, and that thing that's missing is my youth. And I know, as a 25-year-old, complaining about your youth being gone is such a laughable thing, because I know I have a lot of viewers that are older, like in their 30s and 40s, because I cover a lot of retro gaming stuff on my channel. So I have a lot of people, like pretty much all age groups, that are subscribed to me. So you guys are just laughing at me, but I really have, like, experienced a lot of changes, and I feel like a completely different person from the age of 20 to the age of 25. Like, 5 years just feels like a lifetime for me. A lot's happened since then. My father died, my grandfather died, one of my best friends from high school died at a very young age from cancer, and it's just like, it really changes you in a lot of ways. Like, I know I'm kind of like, what the hell does this have to do with video games? A lot of you are saying this, but it's just one of those examples of, like, video games was one of my favorite hobbies, and the way I see video games, the way I think about them, the way I play them, is just so different, because the way that I am as a person has changed so much, in a way that I could have never imagined. I used to never really think about death. It was such an abstract concept. Like, yeah, I always knew in the back of my mind, oh yeah, I'm gonna die one day. But with all these people that are very important to me that have died, it just, like, I think about death all the time now. It's actually kind of fucked up, and it really is having a negative impact on my mental health and my overall well-being. It's like to the point where every time I see my dog is 9 years old, she's cute little beagle, I think, like, well, she's gonna die at some point. She's gonna die soon in the next couple of years, and it's just another, I was gonna say person, but I'm not one of those weirdos that think dogs are people, but she is very important to me. She's a very important part of my life. I love her so much, and just the thought of losing her, it's devastating. It really is, like, to the point where I think after this one, I don't think I'm ever gonna have another dog again, just because their lives are so short, and the whole process of dealing with, you know, them dying and putting them down. I've already been through that twice. I don't think I could do it a third time. I will have to, but I don't know if I'll be able to do it after that. I think it's just not worth it. So then I just see, like, on my days off, because I work really hard. I work, man, the graveyard shift is really rough on me. And, you know, to be fair, I am in a pretty good work environment. My managers love me, pretty much. They sent me to the office the other day, and it was kind of a funny thing, because usually when you're sent to the office at my job, it means you're either getting fired or you're getting written up. It's never a good thing. But they sent me to the office, and my my boss was such a dick. He was like, have a seat. Like, he played it up so much. He was acting all serious, and I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck did I do? I was trying to think of things that I possibly could have done wrong to get in trouble, or to get fired or whatever. I've been working there for 2 years now, and I've had nothing but great things that I've heard from managers about me, and my coworkers like me, more or less, and I'm considered one of their best workers, basically. So I'm like, why the hell am I in the office? And they're like, yeah, we have you here because we just want to tell you how much you mean to us and how we wish we had more employees like you. You just knock it out of the park every single day, and you are one of the best employees that we ever had and that we could ever ask for. And that really, that really meant a lot to me. But at the same time, it's like, this job is killing me on the inside. I mean, you're not meant to work overnight. You're not meant to break your back every single day, basically, because I have, like, a manual labor type blue-collar shit. That's my job. And, I like being, using my brain and getting involved that way. And, that's what I've been doing with YouTube, sharing my ideas to the entire world. Like, I didn't realize, like, how much of an impact that I've had, even though it's such a small thing. I only have about 4,500 subscribers on the Call of Duty channel, and I have about 4,200 on this one. Combined, though, because not all, I'd say most people are not subscribed to both of my channels. I don't think it's even close. I have a completely different audience on both channels. So I have almost 10,000 fans, which, in the grand scheme of things, I'm a very, very, very small fish. But over the years, I've made an impact. I definitely have. Like, there are people who send me messages or leave comments saying, yeah, I've been watching your stuff for years now, and I've been such a huge fan, and your videos have meant so much to me. Something actually fucking crazy. When I was recording gameplay for this video playing Red Dead Redemption 1, someone from my multiplayer lobby actually recognized me from YouTube, which I just, it blew my mind, especially since I've been gone for a while. Someone actually messaged me. I'll show it to you on the screen right now. Yeah, they knew who I was. What? And I guess I wouldn't have been as surprised if it was a game of, Black Ops 1, because I'm pretty well known for my Black Ops 1 videos and my old school Call of Duty videos, and the player base is very small in those games. So if people recognize me from there, I wouldn't be very surprised. But Red Dead Redemption, I haven't posted too many Red Dead Redemption videos, so the fact that I was even recognized on that, and that I haven't been very active on YouTube in 2 years, but people still remember me, and they still recognize me in random online games, and I'm such a small channel, it just blows my mind completely. And I just have such a weird fan base, too. The same people that fantasized about my death, and wanted nothing but bad things to happen to me, I'd say 5 or 6 years ago, I had by far the worst like to dislike ratios in all of YouTube history. I'm not even joking. That one video I made had a 1% like to dislike. It was really bad. Now I have pretty much most likes on my videos. I think the video I just put out has like 60 likes and 1 dislike, something like that. So, yeah, it's weird how my history on YouTube and the way that my audience has changed and the way people's opinion about me has changed over the years. And I guess that's just because of, like, you guys are seeing me age and grow over time. Like I said, I was 11 years old when I started this thing. Now I'm 25. So you've seen a lot of change from the way I carry myself to the way that I do business. Like, I used to start drama on YouTube all the time. I would pick fights with people all the time. Remember the shit that I had with Rags and, what was that guy? Fratanga, and, oh my god, there were so many people over the years. I can't name them all. But yeah, I would just make videos calling people out, really just looking for attention, I guess. Now, I want absolutely nothing to do with drama. Like, at all. Like, if someone made a video on me, I would not respond. I would not even acknowledge its existence, never mind make a whole response to it. But I think after my father died, it really set a fuse. Like, life is so short. What's the point of getting involved in any of this bullshit at all? It's such a waste of time. And that's right around the time that my YouTube shit started to decline a lot. I was on a fucking roll in mid-2021. If you guys were around back then, especially on the COD channel, oh my god, that shit was popping off so much. I started off that year with like 1,000 subscribers, and then I grew to 4,000, and the views just kept coming and coming and coming. I remember making $500 off of one video, which is like a whole week's paycheck for me, and that was like maybe like an hour's worth of work. I'm like, damn, there's really something going on here. But yeah, I just lost all motivation to do anything. I lost my entire drive as soon as my dad died, and then my grandfather died like a month later. So that's honestly the main reason why the content's been dry. But also, like, you know, I run gaming channels, and gaming is the main thing behind my content. And that's another thing, I've just lost complete interest in that too. I don't play a lot of video games these days. If you guys see me on Xbox Live, Steam, it's very rare that I am online at all, never mind playing anything. So that's something that I'm trying to find my passion for again. But it's very tough. It really is. And I think even if this job wasn't a factor, even if I had all the free time in the world, I still think I would just get in my head so much that I would just be like, fuck it. Like, what's the point? Let's say I do post a whole bunch of YouTube videos. Let's say I become successful. Let's say I become famous. And I have 1 million subscribers, let's say. And I become a millionaire, either through YouTube or through my cryptocurrency, which so far is not working out so well. I think I'm like $7,500 in the hole. I started investing like 2 years ago. So that's another thing. That's neither here nor there, though. We're not going to talk about that. But let's say I make it. I become very successful financially, and I have everything good going for me. I feel like I would find a way to be unhappy. It's like, I'm just being completely honest, not just with you guys, but with myself. Like, I think I'm my own worst enemy sometimes. A lot of the time I'm telling myself, what's the point of building up this life when eventually it's going to end? And when I mean eventually, I don't mean like, oh, it could have, like, I'm not going to die until I'm like 90 years old. So I have like 70 years of life left to live, or 60 years, whatever the hell it is. It's like, no, I've learned from my experience that you can die at any moment. I can die in a year. This could be my very last video that you'll ever see. Because tomorrow, I could get in the car, get hit by a drunk driver, and that's it. Or be at the wrong place at the wrong time, get shot, or just suddenly fall ill. Like, just randomly die. Like, that happens all the time. People just dropping dead. Just for no reason. They're just dead. So I just keep asking myself, like, why the fuck am I here? Why am I alive? What's the point of this entire thing? It's like some kind of sick game that someone is playing on me. Like, knowing that you're going to die and everything will be over. You will no longer exist. I know there are a lot of religious people out there that, you know, don't necessarily agree with that. But that's honestly the way I see it, is that once you're dead, that there's nothing after that. So when you have that mindset, it's like, what am I fighting for? What am I living for if it's just all going to go at some point? Like, that's something that is honestly, like, in my head every single day. It just randomly popped in my head, like, I think it was during a shift at work. Like, I was working hard, busting my ass, and all my other coworkers were doing it, and I just like randomly had the thought in my head, like in the middle of the shift, like, one day we're all gonna be dead. And what the fuck is all this for? Us busting our asses, working for some corporation, like, and just grinding. Like, who's it for? Our kids? Okay. They're gonna be dead too one day. And they could be dead before you are. What then? And that's honestly why I'm so afraid to have children, is because I don't want my life to suddenly revolve around another person that isn't me. Like, my entire life will be about that one person, or two people if I have two kids, or three, or whatever. And it's just like, it just feels like such a sad way to find meaning in life, is through creating another person. And that's all you have, basically. Because your child is your world. Any good parent will say that their child is the only thing that matters to them. That's what my father told me. He said that of all the things that he accomplished in his life, through his 25-year career in Wall Street, to his marriage, and all the things that he's ever done, he said the greatest accomplishment in his life was me. And that really stuck with me, especially when he died. Like, he wasn't even on his deathbed when he said that. Like, he just said that from the heart. And it's like, damn, like, I felt really happy that he said that, but also, like, now looking back, it's like, yeah, like, it really is, like, a thing in society where people, like, it's just all about the kids, which it should be. If you have a kid, it should be, but it's also like, damn, there should be a little bit more to life than just procreating. And I honestly don't know if I would be a good father. I could barely take care of myself. How could I take care of another person? Like, that's just something that I also think about. I don't know if you want to call it a quarter life crisis, or more realistically, I'm not going to make it to 100, so maybe a 1/3 life crisis. I think 75 is more realistic. I don't know what it is, but I'm just like, my whole way of thinking, my whole mindset is just completely different. Like, I might as well be a different person now, because I've reached a phase in my life where these things, these topics that otherwise wouldn't really be in my head, like whether we're talking about death, even though, I lost people when I was a kid too. My grandmother was the first big loss. She died the day before my birthday, my 11th birthday, and that was a big deal. And a couple of dogs that have died, and some other, but like, the older you get, the worse it is, because there are people who, like, it's basically the more people that die. Like, the older you get, you lose more people. And once you get to a certain age, it's like, I could be next. So how do I come to terms with that? And how do I try to move forward and try to live the best life I possibly can? Should I see my mom, who's pretty much the only family I have left at this point after everyone that's died? Spend time with my dog that most likely only has like 3 years left in her life? Cherish every moment I have left with her? Or am I gonna play some video game, some virtual, be in a virtual world instead of the real world? And I think that's the real reason why I have lost so much joy that I once had playing video games, is because I'm just thinking, like, there are better things I could do with my time. There are better things I could do with my time. Why am I doing this? And I know, like, the quote, time spent wasted is not wasted time, but when you realize that you have an expiration date, the people around you have an expiration date, there's so many other things you could choose to do instead of video games. Like, video games just seem so arbitrary, and it just seems so low in terms of important things to do. It's such a difficult thing to commit time to, especially the online multiplayer games. I've noticed I suck so much ass at these games because I don't really take time to get good and learn the mechanics of the games, because that's not how I operate. I can't spend so much time playing one video game and learning it and doing all that stuff to try to become great at something that is also not going to last forever. Like, for example, people that are like professional Overwatch players. Overwatch is not the same Overwatch that it was back in 2017 when it came out, or 2016. It's just not the same game. It's a worse game. I think most people would agree with that. So it's like, so all that time you dedicated, the thousands upon thousands of hours that you spent to become an Overwatch pro, for what? Now it's gone, basically. And if it's not gone now, you can technically say, well, it's still there because it still kind of is Overwatch. Okay, one day Overwatch will no longer exist. Like, it's just gonna happen. Like, that's the thing, like, with all these online servers shutting down for these old games that I played back then, It's like, damn, all this time I spent on this game, and it's just gone forever now. Like with Battlefield Bad Company 1, Battlefield 1943, those are two games that are shutting down at the end of the year that I'm really devastated that they're shutting down. But it's like, yeah, these online games especially, it's like, and like these looter shooters and these grindfest games. Destiny is a great example of that, where you're just, it's basically your game experience is like the amount of dedication that it is to really get the most out of the experience is to pretty much treat the game like a full-time job. And I can't imagine that unless you're some unemployed or you're a kid, which, you know, kids have a lot more time to do stuff like that. I can't imagine being in my 20s and 30s, like, spending hundreds upon hundreds of hours, like, just playing one game. I just can't. I can't think of doing that anymore. When I was 17, it was fucking awesome. I put thousands of hours in Fallout 4 easily. Now, I don't think I could ever do that again. I just, no. So it's like, you know, have I just become so jaded because I'm older? These opinions that I put online about modern gaming being terrible and how the quality of games have gone downhill, I think it's true that video game quality has been worse than it was, like, let's say even a decade ago or 15 years ago. I think that the generation that I grew up with, which was the 7th generation of consoles, the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and even throw the Wii in there, it's just so much better. Between the exclusive games and the third-party games, and just the quality of the games themselves, because, you know, it's just changed so much. Where when the game came out, if it was shit, it was gonna stay like shit. But now with the whole live service thing, they can just say, hey, you know, the game is not good right now, but one day it will be. So please buy the game now, because we are going to fix it and we are going to make it better. And we can do that because of all the patches we can do. Like the online infrastructure, the way it works right now. Like Battlefield 2042. It's improved dramatically since it came out 2 years ago. But if Battlefield 2042 came out in 2010, it would have stayed shit forever. And I still think 2042 is shit, if we're going to be honest. But it's a lot less shit. So a part of it is definitely there. It's definitely observable that the quality of gaming has declined just because of how technology has changed and how the tastes of consumers have changed. But I also think maybe just as an adult, I've become so jaded. Like, I always think, like, I hate Fortnite so much. I just find it so annoying and obnoxious. I just don't want to play that shit. But if I was, like, I don't know, 15 years younger, 10 years younger, whatever, because Fortnite has been around for like 6 years now. So if I was 10 years younger, I would be like 9 years old when it released. So would I be a Fortnite kid if I grew up with Fortnite? Probably. Modern Warfare 2019, which I consider to be the worst Call of Duty game of all time. Would I have liked that game if it was my first ever Call of Duty? Maybe. I mean, I consider the original Modern Warfare 2 to be one of the greatest Call of Duties of all time because it was my first. But going back and playing it, oh my god, was it an unbalanced shitfest. It was really fun, but man, it was so broken. So you can have it the other way too. If I was 10 years older, would I have been into the same games that I was when I was growing up as a kid? Probably not. So I think part of it is like a generational thing. I think it definitely is because, you know, I see a lot of these YouTubers that are older than me. Let's say they're in like their late 30s, mid 40s, in that age range. And they always talk about how the Super Nintendo era, the 16-bit between the Super Nintendo and Genesis, is the greatest console generation of all time. The greatest time period in video game history. The best games that we've ever had. And how nothing will ever come close to the 16-bit era of games. But I just have no connection with that era because I did not grow up with those systems at all. And me personally, if I had to create a list of the 100 best games that I've ever played in my entire life, none of those games would be from the Super Nintendo and Genesis era. It would probably be like 70% PS3 360 games, 20% PS2 games, and maybe 10% games from like the PS4 and onward, because there were some games that I did like over the years, but mostly just been the stuff from when I was a kid. And, you know, I just said earlier in the video that I think that the 7th generation is the greatest console generation of all time. I grew up during that time period, you know? I think you really are a product of your own time. To use a very extreme example, I don't think any of us would be the same person if we were alive in 1523 compared to 2023. Like, we just wouldn't. So I think that can be applied to video games, even though really most of what I've talked about has just been pretty off topic from the title of the video and the type of content that I put on my channel. But really, if you think about it, everything that I've said is very much on topic and related to one another if you really think about it. The way you live your life and the way you think about life changes dramatically as you get older, especially when you become an adult. And the world changes, technology changes, all of that put together, it's going to affect the way that you play video games or the way that you apply yourself to any hobby that you had when you were younger. I mean, do we really all have the same hobbies that we did when we were teenagers? Like, no, of course not. Like, our tastes and, based off of our life circumstances, that's going to change the way that we choose to spend our time. And I think just looking through one hobby, for me, video games has definitely been the most prominent one in my life. And seeing how your tastes and the way that you approach that hobby, see how it changes over time, I think that gives you a lot of insight into how your entire life has changed, for better or worse. But I think it's a very interesting thing to ponder and think about. I'm not going to say my life is worse because I have less time to play video games. That is definitely a ridiculous thing to say. But when you become an adult, video games is definitely not as fun as it was when you were younger. It just never will be. When you have more responsibilities and less free time, there is no way that video games can be a better experience for you as a result. It's just, the way that video games are requires a lot of time commitment, and when you have less time to commit, it's not as fun anymore, especially when you get into games like I was talking about that just require so much time to just have a basic surface level experience, whether we're talking about online games or just these big open world experiences, single player or multiplayer. The enjoyment level just isn't as high anymore when you feel the time pressure. Like, you only have X amount of hours in the day to be able to do anything, never mind playing video games. So it's like, it's just a bummer, man. That's just how it is, unfortunately. At this phase in my life, I'm going through a lot of changes, some good, some bad, and I think the way that I interact with video games now compared to when I was younger is a good reflection of that.